right? 2 days ago, we learned that meditation about discovering your inner essence, right? Finding that it's discovering your soul within, and the inner essence of your soul, discovering that it's Hashem. And then yesterday we looked into the parsha and we were looking at the 4 stages of redemption, right? Corresponding to which we drink 4 cups of wine at the Seder. And the 4 stages were V'hotzeti, V'hitzalti, V'ga'alti, V'larkachti. And we saw that these 4 stages of redemption are the model for all healing. The first stage of healing is alleviate the suffering. I will take you out from the suffering of Egypt. Second stage of redemption is to identify the cause of the suffering and neutralize that, which is I'm going to save you from having to work for the Egyptians. And the third stage is the stage at which you look at the environment that the person who was sick or the person who needs healing, whatever it may be, whether it's psychological or physical or emotional, you look at the environment that they're living in and identify to see if they stay in that environment, are they going to get sick again, God forbid? And if they are, then you got to take them out of their environment, right? And so that's V'ga'alti etchem b'zroa nituya. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm of v'shvatim gedolim, and with great judgments. And then at that point, you could say the person is no longer sick. Okay, and however, there's a great danger that they're going to go back to that same environment, right? So what you need to have in order for, right, so there's sick, not sick, and healthy. So you got to go to the stage of the person being healthy, and that is to give the person a new state of being, a new way of relating with life, a new level of appreciation of self. And right, sometimes a person's problem is that they don't have any self-esteem, whatever the example may be, but the model is still the same model for all of them, right? In other words, you can take someone and clean them up and solve their immediate problem, but if the reason that they got into such a problem in the first place is because they were lacking in self-esteem, if you don't build up their self-esteem, they're just going to go back to the same problem that they had before, right? And for example, abused kids or abused spouses, very often the person who is being abused stays in that kind of a situation because they're lacking self-esteem, right? In other words, you understand if the person's not going to, if you're not going to build up their self-esteem, if they're going to continue to think of themselves as being enslaved rather than as free people, they're just going to go back into slavery, right? Like they say, you can take the Jews out of Egypt, but it's more difficult to take Egypt out of the Jew, right? So there's.
Yet when the Bnei Israel were taken out,
it took a long time to take Egypt out of Egypt out of us.
It's still happening.
And it's still right, because we still have not reached the ultimate redemption yet. Okay? So So the fourth stage is V'lakachti etchem li la'am, I will take it to be my people. V'hayiti lachem l'elokim, I will be God unto you. Meaning to say that that's fourth stage is referring to the giving of the Torah at Har Sinai, right? Where we're entering into a whole new relationship of life, and a whole new relationship with Hashem, where we are no longer. Not only are we no longer slaves, but we're like mamish free people, and and what we do and everything that we do has significance not only for ourselves but for the entire world. Okay, so those we spoke about the four stages of redemption yesterday. Now, to connect it with what we've been learning over here about hapnimiyut shelanu, about our inner dimension, right? Which we all recognize is not an easy thing to achieve. In other words, it's not easy to realize to live with an awareness of our inner dimension, mostly because we've been trained not to look at it, right? the it's easier to conduct a society and to have control over a society by dealing with everything on a superficial basis, right? It's easier to you put a herd of children into. That's one of the big problems with education, is that the education system is based on on running the schools like oh, you're 6 years old and you belong to this herd, and this herd is going to do this in grade 1, and it's going to do this in grade 2, and do this in grade 3. Whether you're advanced, whether you're not advanced, whether you're ready for it, whether you're not ready for it, you're a part of the herd, and there's very, very little attention given to the inner dimension of each student, right? So it's easier to learn things like on a superficial basis, but the tragedy is that we tell people to be quiet and not to pay attention to their inner dimension. Okay, that's a problem. Okay, so what we wanted to do is we wanted to try to today. We wanted to apply. By the way, I'm a little bit slow today. My back is out, so forgive me. Okay.
You're speaking just.
Yeah. Maybe yes. Okay. It's just that part of my attention is diverted to my back. So. Okay.
Maybe you need a pillow or something.
Now I need a whirlpool. Okay. In any case, so we wanted to take a look at these four stages of redemption, and we didn't get to the fifth stage of redemption yesterday, which I want to take a look at as well today. So, did anybody do any thinking about it last night after the class? Like, how to apply this? Malka, did you think about it? You probably, not Melissa, you did?
Mm-hmm. I must have, because I woke up today in a very different place than usual, a much more loving place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about it. I mean, it came up in my life with somebody who's really close to me who I feel like is stuck in a bit of a Mitzrayim and needs to get out of the situation. And it was hit home about how the hardest stage of all of this is the actual getting out and like moving the environment and everything. with the fear that if they don't, that that it's just gonna be too much. And what you're saying right now about the self-esteem, how that's the most important thing. My question really is, I'm late because I was on the phone with this person, is how do you do that?
How do you build self-esteem?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you build self-esteem, right?
Mhm.
And right, the Torah says, you should love your fellow like you love yourself, right? Why does it say like you love yourself? Because if you don't love yourself, you can't really love another person, right? If you don't have self-esteem, you can't do too much, right? And it's interesting, like, people who abuse, it's like they have antennae. They can come into a room with 100 people, they know right away who are the people that can be their victims. You're smiling, yeah? You've seen it? You've seen it, right? It's amazing. They just identify you almost right away, right? Okay. So I'm going to just go with this for a second, okay? It's interesting, when I was a kid, like the big martial arts that everybody was taking was judo, but nobody does judo today anymore, right? It's like
Here
Tai
they
Chi,
do.
yeah?
Yeah.
The Tai
It's
Chi
really
and
popular.
Kung Fu and
Israelis and
this.
Israeli Arabs.
Yeah? Okay, so what's the basic principle in judo?
Use the strength of your opponent against himself
Versus
trying to use your own strength.
versus trying to block it, right? In other words, if there's this energy coming against you and you try to block it, you're more likely to get hurt. Whereas if the energy is coming and you just use it, right? Okay. So would you like to think for 2 minutes and translate that into the topic of self-esteem for a second? Okay. Or so there's somebody that somehow or other manages always to hurt you, right? They say 2 words and you feel like, right? What's the first thing that you did? Maybe not, but using the principle of judo, right? So here are these words coming at me, and they always hurt me, right? Okay, so using the principle of judo, what should I do?
It'd be allowing the harsh criticism and like abusive language and words to reflect back onto them as a reflection on them or you.
Okay, but even before that, okay, good. The last few words that you just said. First thing is, like one of the things they teach you in judo is get out of the way.
Exactly.
Like don't let it hurt you, right? So if somebody talks to me in a way that's abusive and it hurts me, right? As strange as it might sound to you at the moment, it hurts me only as much as I allow it to hurt me. Right? This person can hurt me, you know why? Because I've given them the authority to hurt me. If I take away their authority, and I don't even have to say anything to them, but I do have to make a resolution and resolve it within myself. If I take away their authority and I say, you are no longer empowered to hurt me, they won't be able to hurt me anymore, verbally. Why? And you know what? They'll be the first ones to notice it. And they'll stop doing it because they're not going to get the thrill of hurting you anymore. And what you've done is you've said, you've made a decision. You no longer have the authority to hurt me. Okay? Stopping the pain, right? Alleviating the pain. Okay. In other words, but this is actually really further beyond the first stage. Okay. Now, in order for me to make that kind of a decision, that you don't have the right to hurt me, I obviously have to have enough self-esteem to say that you don't have the right to hurt me. Right?
I have a sense of what that I am. That I am.
I have to have a sense of that I have some worth in this world. God loves me because he's breathing into me every moment, right? In other words, you've got to sit down and meditate on this and think about that I have a right to exist. My life is worthy. I've got good things that I want to do in this world. And who are you, or why in the world should I give you the power to actually hurt me? Okay. Now, so let's go through the 4 stages again. So the first one is, wait a minute, I'm suffering, I'm hurting, I'm in pain because of what this person's done to me, because of what this teacher said to me, because of this or because of that. There's a technique, you've heard of bookshelves, right? You can take your problems that are bothering you right now, and you can take your problems and you can say, I'm not going to ignore you, but for a half an hour, I'm putting you on the shelf. And for a half an hour, I like comedy, I'm going to watch some comedy for half an hour. I like to dance, I'm going to close the doors, turn on my favorite music, and just let myself dance. Okay? In other words, alleviate the pain, right? Just stop for a while. You have that power to do that. You have that power to say, there's no mitzvah in the Torah that I have to suffer 24 hours a day. I'm suffering, okay, but I can take a break. Take a break. Okay? Alleviate the pain. Identify where the pain is coming from. It's coming from this jerk who keeps on saying nasty things to me, right? You no longer have that power to do that. So decision, I've made that decision. I have the right to make that decision. Okay? 3rd stage. What is it in my environment that is always there? It's always setting me up as a victim, right? Now that's already a little bit more sophisticated. In other words, when you're looking at the environment, it could be many different factors. It could be the friends I'm hanging around with. Sometimes, like the Mishnah in Turkey Avot says that appoint yourself a master, but even if you have to buy a friend, which is just an exaggeration, okay, but you have to, a good friend is so important. Maybe a lot of my problems will be solved just by finding better friends. Friends are really important, okay? A friend is, like, was it Tolstoy that said it? I don't know, but like somebody asks his son, how many friends do you have? He says, oh, lots of friends. And he says, how many good friends do you have? 5. So he says, how do you know they're a good friend? So he says, I don't know. So he says, I'll tell you what, here's how to go and test them. Go knock on their door at night and tell them that the police are looking for you, that you've been accused of something and you need to hide. See if they let you in or not. No, I'm not telling you you should go do that. Okay? See if they're going to let you in. Right? And the guy goes and checks with all his friends. And, he has this excuse, he has that excuse, he has that excuse. He says, now I'll send you to one of my friends. And he sends him to one of his friends. to his father's friend, and he goes, knocks on the door. He says, like, I committed a crime. The police are looking for me. I need to hide. And he says, come on right in. Okay. Somebody's at the door. Okay.
Don't let them in. Let them in.
Huh? Okay. So the friends, friends are. See, we're talking about the friends, and here's one of my friends. Okay, friends are really, really important. In other words, your friends are so much part of your environment, right? Okay. So that might be the solution. Like, sometimes that's the solution, right? Sometimes the environment is the food that you're eating. Sometimes the environment is the shul that you're going to. Like, maybe you're davening in the wrong shul. It's possible. Just because God doesn't like to come to your shul doesn't mean that he doesn't go to other shuls.
Wasn't there a thing?
Huh?
In Buffalo, there were two shuls in a certain place, and the screen that on Shabbos came to one or the other.
I'm not sure that by the way, we're learning for the healing of Tzipora Basara, okay? In her honor. So, the story about the Jew that was shipwrecked? I'm sure you know this one, right? And it happened to be he discovered an island that wasn't on the maps. And he was shipwrecked. Anyway, 30 years later, this Jew from Miami is retiring to buy himself a fancy boat with all the best equipment, and he's traveling the seas, and lo and behold, he sees some land and looks at the maps, it's not on the map. Wow, he's so excited to discover an island. He goes ashore, he's looking around, and finally this old guy comes out, and he says, Shalom Aleichem. And he says, what are you doing here? I thought I discovered this island. He says, no, I actually discovered it 30 years ago, but it's not on the maps, and that's why nobody's found me for 30 years. So he says, so you're here all alone? So he says, yeah, totally alone. So how did you survive here for 30 years, like all alone? So he says, come, I'll show you. And they go through the woods, they come to a clearing, and he's built a whole town. He says, and this is my bakery, this is my bank. What's this nice building? Oh, that's my synagogue. Very nice. And they walk another block, and he sees another beautiful building. And what's this? He says, it's also a synagogue. He says, why do you need two? He says, that one I don't go to. Okay. The question of Hashem is everywhere, but like there might be it could be that in like the environment that you're davening in, like, just might be one that doesn't have any respect for you as an individual, and maybe you should just get out of there, and find a place which respects you as an individual. Okay. So these are all examples of environmental changes. You know that if you walk down a certain block and you see certain people, you know that you're going to get stuck over there. So don't go there. Just don't go into that environment. You understand? Now habit is very, very powerful. And if you have certain habits that are not good for you, it's very hard to break them. Habits are very powerful in a positive way too, right? But even there are some dangers that you start doing things by rote, and you lose the inner dimension of it. Okay, so basically what we're saying is that, like, that we've got to use our intelligence, and we've got to use and we've got to commit ourselves to. We've got to commit ourselves to being conscious. In other words, if at the end of the day, if you take stock and ask yourself, how much of this day was spent consciously, right? It's very often we just go through the day with a routine, and whether you're religious or whether you're not religious, like, this is a human phenomenon, right? Like, we just do things, we do things, we do things. So there's something positive to that, and there's something negative in the sense that if you've heard of people who spend all their lives running after wealth, right? To come to the end of their lives, and they think about, like, what did I do with my life? Was this, did I live my life, or was I pursuing the idol of wealth, or was I pursuing the idol of fame, or whatever it might be? Okay, so these are all things that have to do with environment. There's certain environments in which, for example, if you don't have like a $30,000 watch, you're a nobody. You ever heard about that? There's a street there in Pico.
Oh, in LA?
That-
No,
that-
I've
that-
never heard of this in LA.
Yeah, that watch store there, like near.
Yeah, that like
Have you seen
crazy
that
story.
watch store?
Yeah.
It's like 200 guards outside the store all the time.
Yeah.
And like windows that are 6 feet thick.
Yeah.
type of thing,
Yeah, looks like a jail.
It looks like, it's like an armory, and like, what's in there? Watches. And one night I was walking by and they're having this party, and you're a nobody if you weren't invited to that party. You're nobody, right? So again, what's the environment that you're living in? What's the environment that you're living in, right? And this is a phenomenon throughout all societies. It's not just, like, I once went to the Museum of Natural History in New York, and they had this exhibit on the Aborigines or whatever, and if these women make their little tiny skirts out of pieces of ostrich shells, ostrich eggshells, and each one of those skirts is like might have like 1,000 or 2,000 little tiny pieces of an ostrich shell, and it takes them 2 years to make it, because each piece has to be sanded, has to have a hole in it, and dyed. And if you don't own one of those in that society, you're nobody, Okay, now in certain societies, you can't really, like if you're living out there with the Aborigines, where you're going to run to, But but if you find yourself that the environment that you're living in, the value system is not your value system, it's not what you believe in, well then, find some better place. Okay.
Move to Nachlaw.
Okay. Now, so all these are stages 1, 2, and 3. Now, stage number 4, is basically Hashem saying, "I'm going to take you to be my people. I'm going to be your God. We're going to have a deeper, meaningful relationship. I'm going to give you the Torah, which is not just a book of rules. The Torah, the Torah, like the Talmud says, the first word of the 10 Commandments, Anochi. The Talmud explains it as an acronym. Ana nafshit ktavit yahavit. I am giving you my essence in writing." Right? So the Torah is not just, okay, you're Jewish, here are the rules. You 6 days a week you work, 7 days, 7th day you rest. This you may eat, this you may not eat. It's not just that. It's Hashem's essence in writing. Okay, it's the deepest thing in the world, and it's a whole, like we're learning these things over here, like and even these verses that we're talking about. It's not just a story about, oh, I'm going to take you out of Egypt, and I'm going to, and I'm going to take you to a new country, and everything's going to be fine and dandy. It's the story. It's the model of your life, and it goes deep, and it keeps on going, and deeper and deeper and deeper. Okay, and you have a whole treasure with which to live your life. and nobody can ever enslave you again. They might crack the whip, they might persecute us, they might expel us from Spain, they might destroy the Beit HaMikdash, etc., etc. But nobody's ever going to enslave us again. We're always going to come out ahead, right? Anybody ever read that essay of Mark Twain concerning the Jews, right? The first page, he writes about that. And I saw that there was a T-shirt being sold last year with a list of all the various civilizations, and each one has an X next to it, and the only one that's still around, the Jewish civilization, right? So we've been given something. We've got this treasure, okay? So now that is the area of self-esteem. In other words, I'm not just a shmata, okay? And I've got something precious in my life. But you need to sit and meditate on that, and especially if you've had the experience of always being put down, especially if you've had that experience in your life. You see, what happens in meditation? Okay, the basic concept in meditation is, and I hope that you'll agree or yell it, is that moach shalit al halev, the mind rules over the heart. Okay, somebody stepped on my toe. They said sorry. I said no problem. I saw them 24 hours later, and I exploded and nearly jumped on them and beat them up. What happened? Yet when they stepped on my toe, I didn't make a big deal of it. The next day I see them and I'm furious. What happened in those 24 hours? I kept on thinking about it, and I kept on thinking about it, and I kept on thinking about it, right? And the thinking about it inspired all those emotions, right? So if you spend time thinking about, I am a good person, despite the fact that my teachers told me otherwise, and my parents may have told me otherwise, and my friends may have told me otherwise, I know that there's something really good about me. And if you actually meditate on that, you're going to start to love yourself and appreciate yourself, right? That's so important in building self-esteem, right? Disarm those who keep on putting you down, and spend time knowing your inner self and appreciating your inner self. Okay? The more you do that, the more it becomes real. Okay?
What was the phrase you said? The moach. What is it? Moach.
Moach shalit al halev. Okay? Now, so now let's try to touch on the fifth stage a little bit today. Okay? The fifth stage is V'haveti Etzchem el haaretz. I'm going to bring you to the land that I promised to your ancestors. So let's say I spent 25 years of my life as a victim. Okay. And then I finally learned how to be liberated from being a victim. Okay. And I went ahead and I actually did the work, and I'm no longer, thank God, a victim. Okay. Were those first 25 years just a waste of my life? If all I do is I say good riddance to it, right? And thank God I'm out of that slavery, right? Then you've stopped at stage 4. You haven't achieved the ultimate redemption yet. And we have not yet achieved the ultimate redemption. That's the reality. Okay? That's why we don't drink the 5th cup of wine yet at the Seder. The fifth cup of wine is for the ultimate redemption. Okay? So in a small way, okay, the fifth stage is I'm going to bring you home to your land, right? In a small way, it's about looking back and saying, can I salvage what was the good in those 25 years? What was the good? What's good? What are the treasures I can take with me from those years of slavery? What did I learn from it? It doesn't explain why it had to be this way. Okay? It doesn't answer all the questions that you might have, but it's a start. What did I learn from it? Like, for example, and I don't mean to say anything judgmental or harsh, right? Have we learned all that we need to learn from the Holocaust? The Holocaust was horrible. Have we learned all we need to learn? And do we care? The Germans, the Nazis, they went ahead and they said, we don't care what kind of Jew you are. You're a Jew, right? Do we look at one another and say, I don't care what kind of Jew you are, you're a Jew, you're my brother, you're my sister, no matter what? Right? Serious question, right? And right, so can I then say I've redeemed those years of the Holocaust? Not yet. Right? Understand? It's when you go through something harsh, and you've learned how to navigate through it for your own benefit. You also need to say, you need to take a look and see, wait a minute, if I believe that God is involved in everything, nothing happens without God's allowing it to happen. That means that God was there in those situations that were really, really painful for me. Do I trust that everything that God does is good? If I trust that everything that God does is good, I have to find the good in what happened in my life. I have to find the good. If I don't, fine, I can go and just spend the rest of my life on the beach, fine, and look back and say, it was horrible, I'm glad I'm past it, and that's that. But then you haven't redeemed it. You haven't gained anything from it. If you want all your life to be meaningful and valuable, it's necessary to say, what did I gain from this experience and from that experience, and how can I use it for a better future, and how can I use it to help other people? Okay? And if you manage to do that, then you can get to a place where you realize, wow, if I hadn't gone through this, I would not have grown so much. If I hadn't gone through this, there was a situation where I remember the day. I mean, I don't remember the date, but I remember the day where I actually said to Hashem, I forgive you for what you put me through. Because on that day, I was able to save somebody's life thanks to what I went through. Okay? Thanks to what I went through, I realized, I don't know why it had to be that way, but I realized that had I not gone through what I went through, I wouldn't have been able to do this. And so I said, Hashem, thank you for teaching me. Okay? And Bichlal, that can be your approach every day. That something difficult is coming up. It's a challenging moment. Thank you, Hashem, for the challenge. It's obvious that you want me to grow even more. That's the point of the challenge, right? You know how they train horses to jump high? They put an obstacle in front of the horse so that the horse will jump. If the obstacle isn't strong enough, they put a stronger obstacle so that the horse will jump. Okay, understand? If Hashem wants me to grow, and I'm not actively growing, if I'm being lazy, God will put an obstacle in front of me and let me know, jump or get whacked, type of thing. You know what I mean? Grow. Right? The language that the Talmud uses is that there's not even a blade of grass that grows without an angel giving it a whack.
I heard every blade of grass has an encouraging, loving angel saying,
Yeah.
"Grow, grow," not like wow.
Yeah, but the language in the Talmud is, yeah.
Makeh.
Makeh.
Hurting the grass or something?
Not hurting. It's like, it's you know that contraption they have in physics class? Did you ever go to school? I mean, you took physics, like, they have these balls hanging, right? And like 5 of them touching each other, and you let one hit the one next to it, and the one out there jumps, right? You've seen that, right? So that's a makkah, right? In other words, some kind of an energy to make you move.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it's. It doesn't mean it's not. Huh?
The energy can come from a place of rebuke or can come from a place of
Right. So when we say that the angels are giving it a little push, a little makkah, it doesn't mean that, hey, you dumb blade of grass, I'm going to whack you unless you grow. It's just
Wake up.
It's a push. It's a shove. It's not because. Let's put it this way: if you don't care about somebody and you see them stagnating, right? You don't do anything. If you care about them, hopefully you'll know how to motivate them in the most loving of ways, right? But what if you just have to actually give them a shove, right? And you love them, you'll shove them, right? That's, huh?
I don't know. I think I would shove someone to get them to grow.
Sometimes you have to.
If let's put it this way, if God forbid there's a fire and you got to jump out a window, okay, and the person that you're with is just too afraid to jump out the window, you're gonna shove them or not?
Yeah, I would. It's just
You
like
would.
it doesn't translate so well.
I know. So it's a problem with language. It's not a problem with
No, I mean,
reality.
the analogy is like illustrates the point, but it's like still in actuality, in reality, it's like.
So unfortunately, there are people who shove us, and they only care about shoving us. You understand? So what's coming along with their shove is nothing very pleasant. Okay, but you're right, because what we're familiar with is painful things. Okay, so that opens us up to a larger question. Why do certain important lessons in life have to come in such a painful and harsh way? And that's a question which I don't know. I'm sure that somebody's going to come along one day and tell you, "Oh, I'm a Kabbalist," and I'll start telling you about your past lifetime and so on. So just know that anybody comes and talks to you like that, say no, thank you. It might be true that in the past lifetime I did this and this and this, and it very possibly is true. But do me a favor, if you don't know what you're talking about, don't talk, okay? But it could be that, if you believe in souls coming down to the world more than once, and in reincarnation of souls. And it could be that in a past lifetime I did certain things that I'm still being held responsible for, and I'm being given another opportunity to rectify the situation. And we, by the way, we do believe in reincarnation of souls, okay? But you don't have to if you don't want to. It's not an article. It's not an article of faith, okay? So it could be that in some previous lifetime, that I did certain things, and my soul needs to go through these experiences that I've been going through in order to rectify things from the past. Could be. I don't know. When we'll find out, we're not going to be here anymore anyway. Okay? Kilo yirani ha'adam b'chai. Man cannot see me and live. The moment, but when we die, we do see. Okay? It's similar to the statement of necessity is the mother of invention, right? Or similar to the idea that kids who grew up with the golden spoon in their mouth or a silver spoon in their mouth are very often not going to achieve their potential because they haven't been challenged, right? Like, your grandfather who was selling thumbtacks from a cart on Broadway, and then became like a big hardware store and a big magnate. Will his kids or grandchildren who are going to inherit the millions, are they going to achieve their potential, or are they going to just going to spend their time figuring out, which cruise to go on, type of thing, which is, it's nice to go on a cruise, I'm sure, I'd love to, but
It's impossible to evaluate.
No, but I'm just saying, but in general, it's when you have, in other words, when do you start thinking when you need to think, right? There are some people who are born thinkers. They just love thinking, you understand?
Right.
But most of us, you need some kind of a push to make you think.
Right.
Right. What were you going to say, Shana?
I would say even within, I'm not challenging the idea of reincarnation, but even within this world, there are other models in sports, there's an expression: "No pain, no gain." You want to make your muscles grow. You have something, have some breakdown, push yourself beyond your limit. And Rav Avram Twersky uses the metaphor of the lobster, or the shelled animal that grows inside the shell until it's chafing and it can't grow it, and it can't grow anymore, and then it has to break down.
You have to break the shell. Yeah.
You have to break the shell and go to a safe place for a while until it grows again.
Right.
Otherwise, you can't grow.
Yeah. That's the way. That's the way life is. Right. Okay, so that's the fifth stage that we're talking about. The fifth stage being that, stop having pain, treat the cause of the pain, correct what you need to correct in your environment, get into a strong, healthy self-esteem, and discover the good that Hashem has put in front of us, even though it was given to us in a very painful way. Okay. Just tell you a quick story. There's a book that's right behind you on the second shelf, second book on the left, or something like that. It's called Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust. You see it? So this was done by Lady Yafa Eliach. I believe she's still alive. She was a professor of literature in New York, and if you've been to the Yad Vashem, there's this tower of photographs. Have you seen that? She's the one who designed that too.
That room that's like the circle room?
No, I think it's like a big tower.
Okay.
Yeah.
at the
And
end,
huh?
the very end.
Yeah.
It's something in Washington.
Anyway, so she has a story over here, and a lot of these stories were gathered. She gathered the stories from this Rabbi Israel Shapiro, who was the Stechina Rebbe or something like that, a Holocaust survivor. And one of the stories is that was Yom Kippur, and the Nazis had the Jews dig a huge trench. And when the trench was like deep and wide, they said to the Jews, they said, we know that it's Yom Kippur today. It's your day of judgment. So now everybody line up and jump across the trench. If you're in the book of life, you will make it to the other side. If you don't make it to the other side, you're obviously not in the book of life. Imagine how cruel these people are. So this Rabbi Israel Shapiro was around 50 years old, and he had become good friends with another inmate there who was not a religious Jew whatsoever, and they had become very good friends. They used to have discussions and arguments. So this guy says to the rabbi, he says, we're not going to make it. I don't know if, I'm sure you've seen pictures like, what these people look like. They look like skeletons with skin under bones, okay? And the rabbi says to him, if God wants us to live, we're going to make it. Anyway, so Rabbi Yisrael was ahead of this man in line. And when it came time for him to jump, he mumbled some words. He ran, he put his hand up to the sky, he jumped, and he made it across. The next 2 or 3 people after him was his friend. His friend was not religious, just ran, put his hand up to the sky, and jumped and made it across. So later in the evening, they were talking, then he says to the rabbi, he says, how did you do it? So he says, I visualized my ancestors reaching down from heaven, and I put my hand up and I held onto their hand. I said a prayer and I held onto their hand and I got across. So now Rabbi Yisrael, who knows that his friend is not into these kinds of thinking, he says, so how did you get across? Right? So he says, for me it was easy. I was holding on to you. Understand? So we should all be blessed to have really good friends.
Amen. Good.
Beautiful story.
The other time, I know I didn't completely answer you satisfactorily. That's okay. No, I'm not. I recognize the struggle that you're dealing with in that. And
With the angel?
yeah, but I'll let it encompass it. Yeah.
When
Which
you wake
is-
up your kids, to get them to get the school bus, you can wake them up with a little tap. There's a little tap and a big tap. So it's like whatever it takes.
I don't think it should be whatever it takes.
Well, maybe that's what Hashem is not how Hashem comes to us. We're on the right path. Everything's fine. We're still going to get challenges.
Look. Depending on the kid, depending on the situation, you understand that there are kids who it's enough to just tell them it's time to get up, and they get up. There are kids who, for some reason or other, whatever the reason may be, some people just need to have a more strict environment in order for them to get up and be motivated and achieve what they need to achieve. When I first became a teacher, when I was teaching grade 5, I said to the kids, let's just learn for the pleasure of learning. No exams, no tests.
No work.
You know what happened?
Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing. They hated it. Most of the kids, there maybe 2-3 kids said, "Oh, I love this." The rest of them, but because they were already, how should we say, the system already got into them. But it's a natural thing that people rise to a challenge. If the challenge is appropriate, then everything works works really well.
Because the problem comes from like the individual. Let's say everyone is an individual and unique. And some people just need, let's say, to be patted on the shoulder and then kissed on the cheek in the morning by their mom, and then they get out of bed and something like they need to get the foot pulled off. The problem is when the parent or the individual, or any individual, has like their way that they tend to, react.
I agree with
and they
you.
apply it equally. With
I agree with you 100%, and I said that on a few occasions in the shiur today. Absolutely. I think that that's a basic fault in the whole education system, is that you're 6 years old, you belong to this herd, okay, and it's a serious problem. There are kids who are being taught math and geography and history, and they should be doing music, and there are kids who are doing music, and they should be in math class, right? That's a real problem.
Did you do that nowadays too?
Yeah, they because the system, like, despite how, regardless of how much they spend, and it's improved, okay? It's improved somewhat. When
There's some alternative.
there are some, but by and large, it's still not like that.
Right. I'm thinking it hasn't really.
We had a substitute in our school once, and he was like really wacky. So he's giving the kids a history test, and he writes on the board. He writes this poem: "Fail, fail, fail away. They need you in the salt mines. They need you on the trucks."
Sounds like an
That's
awesome
motivation.
kid. Sounds like an awesome kid.
But that's the system. That's the system.
I was the one that got away.
Huh?
I left the system. I
Yeah.
graduated when I was 16.
Okay, so you got away, but I'm just saying, but that's the system. The system
hated the
basically
system.
says we need X
I really
amount
like
of
the
doctors, we need X amount of engineers, we need X amount of bankers, we need X amount of garbage collectors, we need X amount of people in the salt mines. So the education system is such that the system is happy with the failures. The system doesn't care to help each person reach their maximum potential. It cares about helping a certain group of the society reach their maximum potential. The rest, oh good, here.
And to constantly reaffirm that they're in those positions of power because they deserve it, not because they tricked their way into getting there.
Yeah.
So what's the ultimate world? I mean, we still are going to need those people in those lower tier jobs.
Because you'll always
they
choose themselves.
Huh?
You choose yourself. I was a school teacher for many years, and you see there's kids in the top 10%, in the middle 30%, in the middle 30%, and da 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 da. And everybody, you're choosing yourself.
Some will choose to.
I mean, the kids choose themselves.
Some will choose. Some will choose. That's right. That's one possibility. Yeah, there are other possibilities also, and that you can have the real important thing is that my father, all of a sudden, after the Holocaust, was a janitor for 2 years because that's all that was available. Okay, so he was doing a lower tier job, but he didn't lose his self-esteem. And he eventually worked himself up. Understand? The real important alternative is whatever it is that you might be doing, it's utmost importance that you have self-esteem and don't define yourself by the superficial things that you're doing, but define yourself by your true essence. And if you can do that, then you're going to be living a happy life, whether you're going to be a taxi driver, whether you're going to be a doctor or an engineer. Right?
Sure.
And a lot of these people who are high success people are spending $500-600 an hour just to talk to a psychiatrist. And I'm not joking. Okay, they have it all, and they don't have anything. Now, you understand? So there's a lie out there, and the lie is that how could you not be happy if you have this and this and this and this? Or how could you be happy if you don't have this and this and this? There's a famous story about this gypsy violinist was going to be giving a concert, and at some big venue somewhere in Europe. This is years ago, and the mother of one Hasidic rabbi, she played violin, and she was going to the concert. Now, as it happened, as people were lining up waiting for the doors to open, and it was like a really fancy affair. There was this gypsy sitting on the sidewalk playing a violin. Anyway, finally the doors open up, and they're waiting for the musician to come on stage. And it's that gypsy who was sitting on the sidewalk playing comes on stage, and he says, "I'm not playing for you guys." He says, "I was sitting outside and playing, and none of you noticed what I was doing, except for this one woman." And he pointed to the mother of that Hasidic Rebbe. "The rest of you are only here because of your status, and I'm not playing for you." And he canceled the concert, That's a lot of self-esteem. Okay? And so Mamash, you should be blessed with a lot of self-esteem, but self-esteem is not just a blessing, it's an achievement. Okay? It's an achievement. And I bless you also, and bless me back, that you should have good friends, and that you should be a good friend.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for the class.